Tottenham 2, Newcastle 2. A good point for Tottenham, especially considering their recent record at St James's Park. But it wasn't a convincing point from Tottenham. It wasn't a performance from Tottenham where I went, wow, it's a good result. But I didn't see much in that performance. I think Newcastle deserved to win based off the performance, but just couldn't quite get through. I think Newcastle were the better side. But then I also think that wasn't a penalty. It was very soft. So maybe 2-2, fair result. But that's Newcastle dropping points from winning positions again. I think Newcastle have dropped 11 points from winning positions this season, meaning no team has dropped more points from winning positions than Newcastle this season. And that is something I've noticed about Newcastle. Is it a mentality issue? Is it, lack of confidence, lack of concentration? Is it just individual errors? Pope made errors versus Marseille. Ramsdale should have done a lot better for the goal. Is it just those fine margins? Because I think that Newcastle were the better team. I think they have some quality players. I think they ran the midfield. I think the first half an hour, and particularly Newcastle, were all over Tottenham. I thought Lewis Miley was impressive. I will give Lucas Bergvall credit. I think Lucas Bergvall is the player that Tottenham need to build their team around. I think Lucas Bergvall is an incredibly talented player, and I'm going to talk about what I've noticed about Bergvall in a second. But it is, Newcastle won, good run, good win versus City, good win versus Everton. Really good start to the game. Bruno Guimaraes comes off the bench. Bruno Guimaraes was world class today. Some of his passing, but good ball into, I think, Murphy, good ball into Voltamada. Maybe Murphy could have done more with that. It was phenomenal. He puts Newcastle 1-0 up. They deserve to be 1-0 up. And I'm thinking this could be 3 wins in a row for Newcastle. This is 3 tough sides, Everton, City, and of course, Tottenham. But Newcastle dropped points again. Lack of concentration, goalkeeping errors, and from what was, I think, a physically dominant performance from Newcastle where they were running the midfield, where Tottenham had 2 shots on target all game and they were the 2 attempts that went in. And while Romero's first goal was incredible, his second goal was a bicycle kick, but it's probably the worst bicycle kick I've ever seen. You have to give credit to Tottenham for never giving up, for fighting, for finding ways back into the game. Give credit to Thomas Frank for tactically putting Romero further up as a guy that's going to threaten the Newcastle goal. But ultimately, I think it's a game where Tottenham fans will be happy with the point, but maybe not convinced with the performance. Newcastle fans, point isn't awful, but you had a real opportunity to climb up the league, and now you're still quite low in the league. And I think from being in a winning position, it's a huge blow. I think I look at the performance from Newcastle, look at your last 3 Premier League performances, and I think they've been good performances. I still think that Newcastle will finish top 6 this season. I know you're nowhere near it, but I think your performances are more convincing in recent games than other teams. I think Newcastle will finish in the top 6 if they get luck with injuries. I think Lewis Miley's really growing, and I think with Joe Linton probably not being the best at the moment, and you've got Bruno and Tonali that are mints. You need that other midfielder to step in, and Lewis Miley potentially could be that guy to give Joe Linton some competition in certain games. Bruno Guimaraes was quality phenomenal. I'm not sure why he didn't start, maybe rest. I thought Bruno Guimaraes was absolutely phenomenal today. That pass into Murphy a minute later, but still could pass into Voltamada. The way that Bruno Guimaraes was breaking the lines with his passing was phenomenal. And what Tottenham need is a player exactly like Bruno Guimaraes that can get the ball, that can break the lines and create from deep with his passing. He really put in captain's performance and got Newcastle going. I think Newcastle missed Vissa. I think Voltamada's great, but he's someone that likes to drop deep. He's not a 9 that's going to run the channels and is going to be rapid and give you maybe that movement, which is something that Isak maybe brought a little bit more, and maybe you missed with Isak gone. Not that with Isak's performances you really missed him this season, but you know what I mean. I think this is someone that could run the channels, and I think it'll be really interesting to see how you perform when this is back. I think Voltamada's great. Didn't get a lot of service though. It wasn't maybe the game for Voltamada today. I think Murphy, that's been very good lately for Newcastle, was kind of invisible today. I thought Barnes was okay, but I think that Elanga and Gordon brought a bit more life into the game. I thought Lewis Smiley had a very solid game. I think defensively, Tottenham just switched off. I think Newcastle switched off. I think Ramsdale should have done better for the goal. But Tottenham never gave up. Now, Tottenham never really looked like doing much that game. I can't lie. I thought I was watching Tottenham. I was like, you're so boring to watch. You didn't look like doing a lot that game, but you never gave up. And Romero was there to be a captain. And I think considering he had the worst performance of his career versus PSG, to respond with 2 goals is a way to respond. But look, my man of the match had to be Bruno Guimaraes. I know he only played half a game, but that kind of performance he put in, where he has the technique, he has the physical strength, he has the mindset, the warrior mentality to want to be the best and win everything. I thought he was phenomenal. I think Lewis Miley did well. He's not even a first choice starter for Newcastle really, and I thought that he looked better than most of Tottenham's centre mids. I think he's really starting to come into his own. I think Jacob Murphy probably was a little bit invisible today. I think he could have done better. But Lewis Miley in the first half made 1 out of 1 cross, 2 passes into the final third, completed a tackle, completed a block, completed an interception, and won 7 out of 10 duels. I think he did quite well. But it is 2 points dropped for Newcastle. Now I want to talk about Tottenham. So Tottenham have failed to score in the first half of 5 consecutive Premier League games. Tottenham on the ball aren't looking great. I sometimes do look at Thomas Frank and think, could you have Xavi Simons here? Could Bergvall be a number 8? La la la. Like, I do look at maybe Thomas Frank and I do sometimes question his team selection, but I also think he hasn't got loads of quality players. I have to say I thought Lucas Bergvall was phenomenal. I think he takes risks and there's parts of his decision making which can show his lack of experience. But for the most part, I thought Lucas Bergvall was absolutely phenomenal. I thought that he was probably Tottenham's best player. And I say phenomenal, maybe phenomenal is a big word. Maybe not phenomenal, but I think Lucas Bergvall in general is a phenomenal player for his age, and I think he is Tottenham's best player, and I think he's who Tottenham should build the team around. I feel like he was the only really good spark for Tottenham today. Muani had moments, and I'm surprised they were subbed off, but Bergvall looks like he wants to get the game going. Every time he gets the ball, he wants to get the game going, and sometimes he's too keen and he can give the ball away. But I feel like as a player, he can pick up the ball comfortably. He can play passes comfortably. I think Tottenham have looked lackluster, needed someone like Bergvall today, who I'm not going to say was amazing, but I think, as a talent, he is amazing. But I looked at Tottenham and I do think that physically you did struggle at points in the first half. I don't think it was your most amazing game. I don't think it was your most amazing performance, but considering obviously the results you've got in recent years, you're going to take the point and go. Before the game, if you said to a Tottenham fan they'd get a point and they'd all be happy, after the game I think a lot of Tottenham fans are less happy about the point because the performance wasn't super convincing. And again, lack of goals, it's coming from Romero. You're not really having attackers that are scoring goals. Sometimes I look at Tottenham, I think, where would you be without Kudus? Where would you be without Romero this season? You need to get a quality left winger in. You need to get a ball progressing midfielder in. Absolutely. I look at Wharton, I look at Semenyo. That's exactly what Tottenham need. I do think the overlapping centre-back with Romero going high worked. It gave... I don't think Newcastle knew how to defend that. If I looked at Newcastle and I had to describe Newcastle, I'd say there was 2 points dropped for Newcastle. I'd say they probably should have won the games. And they dropped points to 2 shots on 2 on target. It was not their night. Newcastle probably could have scored 3, but I also say that Tottenham did well to fight back into it. Romero with 2 goals, 30 out of 34 passes completed, 1 chance created, 3 passes into the final third, 5 clearances, 5 headed clearances, and 5 ball recoveries. I thought Romero was very good in combining both defence and attack. I think he was very good at getting Spurs going forward, and I thought that Romero might stay deeper because it's important to build up, but he actually went further up and he made a real impact. Although I still think Ramsdale could have saved it. But it wasn't Tottenham's best performance. They need to do better. But I think they will take the draw at St James's Park. I think Newcastle will see that as a big blow, especially because that could have been an opportunity for 3 wins in a row. It probably should have. They've dropped points from winning positions twice in this game, being 1-0 up, then 2-1 up to make it 1-1, then 2-1. I think that Tottenham need to work on Newcastle need to work on stopping dropping points from winning positions. Look at the Arsenal game, for example, because you'd be much higher up in the league if you could defend out your leads better. And that's something I've noticed about Newcastle. But to just round up my general thoughts, I think that Joelinton needs more competition. I think Newcastle need a midfielder in the summer. I think Newcastle need maybe another attacker in the summer, and they maybe need fullback depth because I think Lewis Hall and Livramento, when they are fit, you play so much better. I thought Bruno G and Romero was absolutely world class. The quality he has on the ball was unreal, and every pass he made, I was almost in awe of how good it was. I think the penalty was harsh on Tottenham. I don't think it was a penalty. And I think it was a very soft concession goal for Newcastle to concede in the 95th minute. I think Ramsdale should have done better. Romero had a bicycle kick, but it wasn't great. Joelinton, I think, struggled bits in the second half. I think Lewis Miley, for the most part, had a good game, especially when you consider his age. And I think a 2-2 draw isn't awful for both teams. No one lost, but I think both teams wanted to win because it was really going to get them up the table. What I noticed about Tottenham is no Xavi Simons today, and I would like to see him start as a 10 with Bergvall behind him. But I think Thomas Frank, 2 shots on target, not the best performance, not the most sustainable performance, but he got a win, and I think it's about building momentum and building wins because it's quite hard to get wins in the Premier League, as we've seen by some of the teams dropping points. But yeah, I think Newcastle were the better side. I think Tottenham more clinical, I guess. Thank you for watching. Bye.